Hi, welcome to another episode of Fishery 2015. Today we're in a town called Boreham in Essex and we're at day ticket carp fishery, the Quarry. If you're looking for other venues to visit, don't forget to check out our website Fishery.co.uk for all the latest information on venues, catch reports, news, hints and tips. We also do anglers' weather forecasts for all of the fisheries across the UK and Ireland. Today here, it's been absolutely perfect carpy weather conditions. Our carp angling supremo Adam Penning is already bagged two for you to have a look at. So without any further ado, we'll hand you over to Adam and go and check them out now.
The Quarry Lake in Boreham, Essex is fast establishing itself as one of the best day ticket waters in the country. And I've only been acquainted with it for about 18 months or so. It opened in May 2014 as a day ticket lake, and up until that point, even though I'm a local lad, I had never seen the place. And I wish I had come down and fished it when it was a syndicate, because being fortunate as I am, travelling around the country, visiting loads of different lakes, I would say out of all the lakes I've been to, this is probably the prettiest. It's absolutely incredible, and it's laid out in such a way that usually you don't have anyone opposite you. You've got your own bit of water that no one else can cast into. There's loads of room. There's big spaces between the swims. You know, some of the swims have got 80 yards between them. You know, it's not you don't let the term day ticket put the fear of God into you, because it's as proper as a proper lake could be. You know, certainly the fish are proper, which we'll come to in a minute. But the lake's got everything a carp angler could wish for. It's got bays, it's got deeps, it's got shallows, it's got lots of weed, it's got clear water, it's got two islands, absolutely everything. Plateaus, bars, silt troughs, beautiful lily beds, if I didn't say about those, because I'm just looking at a set over in the corner there. So yeah, it's almost as if Capability Brown was asked to design a carp lake. This is what he would have come up with, and one day I'm going to ask Ben Lofting if he'll sell it to me. I know he'd say no, and also know I'd never be able to afford it, but I can dream. So I've been coming down here for about 18 months periodically with clients on tutorials, and also for my own fishing, which I don't do an awful lot of, but I've probably done 5 to 10 nights down here during that time on my own. And there's just no better place to be. You know, the fish are exquisite, and if you fish well and sensibly, you know, they can be reasonably catchable. So the lake is steeped in history. It goes, I mean, if you read Darryl Peck's book, I think his first 30 came from here, and it's been known on the Essex circuit for a long time. It's produced commons over 45 pounds in the past. It produced, or it regularly produces, big tench into double figures. We've had a lot of 8s and 9s. You know, everything that's in here seems to grow big. So it's got this great heritage, this great history. A lot of the original fish, of which there's about 40 or so remaining in here, they go back to more than 40 years old. So they're very coveted, sought after, respected fish, and a lot of good anglers down the years have spent their time trying to catch some of them, because they're all worthy of anyone's photo album. So those 40 or so originals have been augmented by a stocking program which the owner Ben Lofting has implemented, which has boosted the stock to over 200 fish. And the stockfish are remarkable. They're going great guns, and growing very, very quickly. So some of the stockfish, I mean, one of them is a common called Cassius. He's up to 44 pounds now. And there's another one, a mirror called Orion, who's been close to 40, and I think will be the biggest fish in the lake one day. He's the most exceptional looking carp you could ever wish for. Underslung mouth, nice steep shoulders, black. One of my clients caught him at 31 pounds, Sam Croft, and when we laid it on the mat, we were just all, you know, that's just, there's very special fish in here. And some of the older originals, you've got a fish like the pucker common, which is the one I would most like to catch myself. 38 pounds of mussel-packed torpedo common. You've got shoulders, probably the most famous fish in the lake. He regularly goes over 40 pounds. And a whole host of other famous big carp that are out there waiting to be caught. Fish like the radish, the duke, the hoover. Actually, that's two names for one fish there. But yeah, there's a lot of fantastic mirrors and commons in here that are well worthy of pursuing. So, how do you go about catching quarry carp? Well, as I said, they don't give themselves up easily. You know, they've been here, some of them, for a very, very long time, and on occasion they can take some catching. So I will show you some of the technical elements of my approach and what I do to try and get a bite. We're down here now, it's August, the fishing's very hard, as it is on most lakes at this time of year, and you need to modify your approach, which I've done, and I've just caught 3 fish in one night, which there's only been 6 out in the last week, so I'm very, very happy with that result. And yeah, it's going to be a pleasure showing you around the quarry, which is one of my favourite carp lakes of all time. So the swim that I've just done the night in, and peg 4 on your map, is the pallets. This is one of my favourite swims on the lake, and not really a popular one these days. I think it was when the syndicate was on here, but I don't know whether these massive tree right in the swim puts people off, but I like it. I think it adds to the swim. But yeah, this is where I caught my 3 carp this morning, and it's a really, really nice swim. They're all nice swims, to be honest, but it's got a lot going on. You've got a long range island out to the left, a big island. It's a bit of a chuck, it's probably about 120, but it has done fish for people who can get out there. And you've got a fantastic view of Weedy Bay itself, so if the fish are in there, you can know about it from here. When it's hot, they'll either be in there or up on the shallows, or maybe spread between the 2 places. It's a good area for floaters as well. I caught the radish off the top over there in Weedy Bay, an original. You know, they do get in there. And other guys caught quite a few originals, and they've all come out of Weedy Bay. So don't let the name put you off. It's a really good zone. So that's opposite me here. Between me and Weedy Bay, I've got a deep trench sort of zone. It's silty, very weedy and close. In fact, up to about 80 yards, there's a lot of weed here. So be aware of that. You do need to get out a little way. But once you get past that, there's a few spots. I found a couple of small holes that I'm fishing in. And it forms a really good juncture, really, because you've got Weedy Bay opposite, you've got a channel from the island swims to the left, and then to the right we've got Deep Bay. So we've got another 3 swims down past us. We've got Stonies, Peg 2, and then number 1, which is the Snags. Nice deep sheltered area, which I think would look really good for a bit of winter fishing. And any fish travelling between, you know, this is a good sort of corner ambush. It's not in a corner, but it ambushes any fish coming out of Weedy, any fish coming from the island channel and in and out of Deep Bay. So maybe that's why it works, but it is a productive swim at the right time when the fish are here. Looking across to my right, there's a very popular swim. In fact, it's never empty, to be honest. Winter Point. Winter Point is the one with the caravan behind it if you've come down for a look, and you can't park really that near it, but you know, it's only a short barrow job. Ben's just done a load of work building that swim up. It's got a picnic table in it and a chair, and it's very comfortable, and it's got one of the best views on the whole of the quarry. Gets the full brunt of a southwesterly wind. Its name would suggest that it's got good winter form, but I don't know. The quarry last winter didn't do many fish, so maybe that's from the syndicate days. I'm sure it will do fish this winter. But yeah, it's, again, a lot of the big fish have been caught from there. There's a good clear zone casting towards the pylon on the far horizon, which is about 15 to 18 wraps, very clean, hard ground, which has had a lot of bait over the years, and the fish feed there a lot. I've not fished there very much. I think I've only done a night in there. It's one of the few swims that I've not fished properly and I haven't caught from, but it does do a lot of fish. It does see a lot of bait, and I think the fish are used to finding bait out there on that zone. And only 2 weeks ago it did 2 of the best fish, or 2 of the biggest fish. Well, the biggest fish and the best fish. It did shoulders and the pucker common. Hell of a brace that. It's hard to beat, really. I mean, the pucker common's my dream fish out of here. So yeah, it's a prime bit of real estate. But back to my swim, the pallets. very happy in here at the moment. Any swim is good when it's got fish in it, and right now there's fish out in front of the pallets. I've had 3 and I might just stay tonight and see if I can nick another. There we go, an immaculate Quarry common carp, 21.5 pounds. He's the middle-sized one of 3 that I've been lucky enough to catch, and which is quite a pleasing result. It's August, the lake's fishing rock hard, and I've switched from the heavy baiting approach to the light baiting approach, which by this time of year, when they've been, they have been hammered, it's a pressured lake. Fishing a little bit cleverer can get you extra bites, as this triple bit of action has shown. So really, really pleased with this guy. I'm going to slip him back once we've done a couple of pictures, and I'll show you the other 2. This is a very popular swim. It's called Paul's. I believe it's named after the TV presenter Paul O'Grady, who caught his first 30-pounder from here. So it's a popular swim, especially amongst Scousers. And we get quite a few northern lads come down here trying to catch the quarry carp, and quite a few of them do very well indeed. It's a beautiful swim, as they all are on the quarry. It commands a brilliant area of water out towards the second smaller island. And again, similar to the corner swim, it's got some deep and hard bottomed water in front of it. Not too much of a weed issue unless you start going well left. I suspect it would be a very good winter swim. I've not managed to get in here and have a go, but it does get a bit of pressure, this swim, unfortunately, because it's convenient. It's a very easy access swim, and it does do its fair share of fish. Most of the big fish have been caught out of this swim over the years, and a very good starting point. That's Paul's swim. Going to show you guys a little bit about my technical approach down at the quarry. The fish, as I said, do take a bit of catching on occasion. They're no fools, and they've seen most things down the years. So don't turn up thinking because it's a day ticket lake that you're going to walk away with 10 or 5 fish under your belt. You might, but you'll have to work for them unless they're really going crazy, which doesn't happen too often. So the number 1 requirement, as of any lake, when you turn up, you have to find a fish. If you just set up in a swim, it's a big lake, there's 200 fish, unless you happen to set up exactly where they are, you will probably blank. So take time walking around looking for a sign of a fish before you set up. You have to do that if you're serious about catching here or any lake. People sometimes say to me, oh, I've done a lap. Well, sometimes you might have to do 4 laps. It's a long way around, but sometimes 4 or 5 laps is what it takes. So do as many as you need until you see some activity. As with any lake, again, most of the activity takes place early in the morning. So if you can, be looking and be vigilant at that time. Once I've located the carp, all I'm looking to do beyond that is to locate a fishable piece of bottom close to where the fish are, which in some swims is easier said than done. The lake is very, very weedy, particularly, well, pretty much all year round, but certainly now it's August, the weed's at its height, it's growing 7, 8, 9, 10 feet off the bottom. So if you come into a swim and you start casting around a marker float, you are just peeing in the wind, as my grandfather used to say. It's just completely futile and you'll end up in a mess. And if you cast a marker float out into these weed beds, it's like casting out a weed rake effectively. The veins of the float, and especially if you use any of those knobbly marker leads, it will just take you forever. You'll be winching in massive balls of weed and it'll just be soul destroying. The only way you can find your clear spots is like this, with a bare lead on the end of your rod. So I just use 1 rod for this, so I use a Free Spirit Spom rod, and I just use that for my feature finding and baiting up. So it's nice and simple. If the weed isn't too bad, I'll use a dumpy pear type lead. If it's really thick, then a lead like this with no shoulder on it will slip through the weed more easily. You always have to feel it down to the bottom, and you're looking for anywhere which lands reasonably firm. But even if it doesn't, it's in weed, you're just going to coax it through the weed until it comes clean. Sometimes it takes a long time to do, but you need to do it to get fishing effectively. So once you've done that, all I do is slide that back, unclip the lead and put the spom on. Absolutely essential in modern carp fishing. This will deliver your bait accurately, or as accurately as you can cast it, to your swim and establish your spot. So once you've located your spot using the bare lead, obviously you need to record where it is, need to use the horizon markers. There's a great skyline around the quarry, an abundance of mature trees, loads of peaks and troughs and dips. Get familiar with your spot. You know, if you're on fish, don't be worried about casting around. The thicker the weed, the less they're bothered about it. And I'll give you an example. Yesterday I probably cast out in this swim 50 times to find my spots, and then I put 11 spoms on one and 7 on another. Then I got my rigs out, a lot of activity. The fish were here, I caught 3 of them. So don't ever think, oh, I can't get cast out, can't get fishing because I'm going to scare the fish. You've got to get fishing properly. So time spent finding your spots, pinpointing them, wrapping your lines out around the poles and recording it will enable you to get that rig back on that spot and to put your bait down accurately. So the bait, it's no secret that the dominant bait down at the quarry for the last few years has been the krill, or the last couple of years. The fish have seen quite a lot of this, and they really are thriving on it. So what you don't want to do, and I see this on a lot of lakes, is you don't want to get your beautiful boilies, whether they're krill or sail or any other brilliant bait, you don't want to get it in an air dry bag and hang it in a tree. I see this everywhere I go, and you're just sucking all that liquid moisture that's some of the great part that's in the bait, you're just sucking it out and leaving a very unattractive, rock hard, dry husk. Yeah, it might go out of the throwing stick great, but is it really that attractive to the carp? I don't think so. So looking after your bait is very, very important. So I get my krill, and this is all sat in hemp juice and salt. Salt's a great preservative, and the hemp juice, you know, I mean, I cook my own hemp at home, and hemp juice is just a remarkable attractor in its own right, really oily. So the oil from that and the salt, you know, that will preserve your bait. That will, you know, I'm only here for a day, maybe 2. There's no need to do anything else. Whatever I don't use will go in the freezer when I get home. I'll probably put the whole bucket in the freezer because at the moment they're not really feeding much and it's just a sprinkling of bait. So, so that's that. If I dug down deeper under there, there's plenty of hemp. And the other bucket, this is really good stuff. So this is Hinder's Blitz mix, some krill crumb and hemp and rock salt. Not rock salt, sea salt actually. And it's just all put together using the juice again of the hemp. This is so attractive, it's so pungent, it makes a lovely natural dark cloud in the water. You know, just try and be inventive with your bait, try and do things. The carp at the quarry love krill, they love hemp, and when they're feeding they like it in quantity. The time to put lots of bait in at the quarry is really April through to about now August. Then you'll have a bit of a lull, and then you'll get the autumn time, September, October, where you can put a bit more bait in. The lake hasn't got brilliant winter form, but they do come out and they're well worth chasing after because they're obviously at their biggest weights then, like they are on any other lake. And hopefully I'll see you down here because I will definitely be plugging away. As I said, it's an incredible lake, one of my personal favourites of all time. And when you hold a quarry carp, you feel like the king of the world. That's the sort of fish the quarry's famous for. Purple backs and deep mahogany chestnut flanks, just absolutely beautiful. This one went 23.5 pounds, part of pretty much a triple take, and 10 spoms of sticky baits krill mixed with a bit of hemp and krill liquid, and keeping it lean. Matching hook baits, nothing bright, and it's paid off in quite some style. So 3 bites in one morning, and I've only done a night, is very satisfying. This chap's got a lovely old wrinkly tail and led me a bit of a dance, but fishing good strong gear, and I got him into the bank safely, which we'll have a look at later on. In the meantime, Quarry Magic. This swim is the corner swim, not too imaginatively named because it is in the corner, a juncture of the main long bank down from the island dugout, and where we turn a corner to go down towards the shallows. Absolute prime bit of real estate, this one, and beautiful looking, as you can see, from all the lily pads, the overhangs, the islands bang in front of you. You've got a lot of deepish water here, and it's quite hard bottomed. The weed never, well, this year and last year, the weed hasn't really taken hold in this channel. You've got some hard bottom, deep water, nice range, 40 to 60 yards or so will get you out there on that hard bottom. There's a few gravel humps, ups and downs. Very good swim this. It's probably the only swim that you can see both ends of the lake from. So if you're ever not sure where the carp are, perhaps a good starting point on that basis alone. And yeah, you've got the islands, you've got a lovely deep margin in front of you, plenty to go at. That's the corner swim. One of the rules at the quarry stipulates that you must use 15-pound line. 15-pound break and strain line is a little bit misleading because a lot of different companies market different diameter lines that are rated 15 pounds. The safest thing you can do is to buy a line that is no thinner than 0.4 millimeters. It'll be clearly marked on the spool. You need to buy a line 0.4 millimeters to cope with fishing at the quarry, because there's an abundance of weed beds, there's a few snags. You've got to fish strong, you've got to fish safe. Don't come down here with a line that's 0.3, 0.33, 0.35 even. Forget it. You need proper, thick, strong line. I use 23-pound Fox Exocet. Again, don't worry about the pound rating, it doesn't really matter. It's 0.4, and that is a line that is thick enough to cope with and withstand the weed. You don't need all the break-in strain, because you can't pull any harder with a carp rod than about 4, 5, 6 pounds at the most. Do the test yourself. Connect your rod to some scales and let your mate hold the scales down 30 yards away and see how much you can put on the scales. You'll be lucky to put more than 5 pound on there. It's about diameter. Diameter is what will land you these fish, because the weed is thick, there's all kinds of underwater abrasions and things like that. If you have got a thin line, you will not land these fish and you will leave them toe in tackle, which is unforgivable in my opinion. So I've got 23 pound 0.4 line on, and the next thing that you want to consider is, because of the weed and the nature of the lake, if you let a fish take a load of line when you get a bite, and the fish is going and it's going and it's going before you get to the rod, every foot that fish goes, you're reducing the chance of you landing it. So if you're one of those anglers that is set up well back, door zipped up with a slack bait runner or a slack hutch, and that fish is going beep, and the spool's going, it's going, it's going, you will not land the fish here. That's really bad angling. You want to be fishing with your clutches done up tight, so as soon as that fish picks up the rig, it's like a dog straining on a lead to take any line. You want any fish, this is how I fish regardless of weedy situations, but it's essential in weed. Any fish that hooks itself, you want to make it work for every inch of line it takes off you. So to that end, my clutches, look, really tight, really tight. Now you want to set these as tight as you can get them, so that the fish, the reel will yield line just before the rod starts to move. Your rod shouldn't move, in all seriousness. I use these jag lockdowns which secure everything. It should be literally locked down as if you're snag fishing. So when I get a bite, the bobbin will go up to the top of the rod, bib, 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 and then the rod will slowly compress and take the pressure of the fish. You do not want to be getting bites, as I said earlier, that go bib, 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 and they keep going, because that fish will make a monkey out of you. It will plough through a couple of tons of weed and you won't get it back. So set your alarms to maximum sensitivity. Use a decent sized bobbin. A tiny little bobbin is not going to show you if the fish drops back towards you, or if the fish goes into weed, or if it kites. You need a good sized bobbin. Fish a reasonably tight and direct line, and fish sensibly. You know, these fish need to be fished for sensibly. Strong line, a sensitive setup, and keep your clutches or your bait runners screwed up pretty tight so that the fish has got to work to take any line off you. You'll get better hook holds doing that as well. And lastly, I tend to fish with my rods up a little bit here. Certainly in this swim, the pallets, I've got a lot of floating weed 10 yards out in front, so it would be pointless having my tips down low. So I've got them up fairly high and the line's going out over the weed and then down to the rigs, which are some 70, 80 yards out in the lake. And that's it really. Fish really sensibly, fish securely. I use 20-pound sinks or 30-pound sinks when it's really weedy like this from Christon as my hook link material. And I combine that with a size 4 or 5 Fox SR armour point. And when those two materials are tied to make a multi-rig, which is the only rig pretty much I use, that's all you need, you know, it's strong. You've got to fish strong. Don't be monkeying around with size 8s and 15-pound hook links, because the fish will get away with it. And lastly, a little note on hook baits. It's no great secret that I like to match the hatch, as it were. If I'm fishing over krill and hemp, which I always am, then I'll give them a krill bait. You know, it will be a brown pop-up that matches all the others. And time again, I've seen people come down here and put out chods and bright snowmen, chod rigs with bright pineapples. Yeah, they might work in the spring, but believe me, they're not going to get you the most bites once it gets down to this time of year when it's scratching time. Again, just have a bit of common sense. If you just fling out a yellow pineapple, are you really going to catch loads of carp? We don't loose feed bright baits. Every bright bait out there is attached to something sharp, and it doesn't take too long for the carp to wise up to it, and they've certainly wised up to it on here, in my opinion. I've watched some good anglers put out bright pinks and whites and yellows, and I've seen them on fish and they're not getting the bites they should be. So think about your approach, match the hatches, in my opinion, the best thing to do. Fish secure, fish strong, and land everything that you get a bite from. The next area of, or one of the many areas of significance at the quarry is the shallows. So this is peg 15. It's the end swim of the drivable bank, and beyond this everything is accessible on the far bank by foot only, which is a bit of a trek, be warned. And during the autumn, spring and winter it can be a bit muddy, so if you're going around the other side, probably better to do it in 2 light trips with a barrow than try and do it in a whole hog, because it can be a grueler. But peg 15, so this is the last one. This area you can see out here encompasses the shallows, the whole thing. So from Summer Point across to 2 swims up is the kind of the beginning of the shallows, and then this whole zone is generally an average probably of 4 to 5 feet deep. It gets very, very weedy up here because it is so shallow, and spots can be hard to find. Forget your chods, they won't work for you. The weed's so high off the bottom, you're just wasting time. You need to find a clear spot. There are clear spots out there. There's quite a few silty holes if you cast around and find them. And because of the weed, you know, this is the weediest part of the whole lake, and as you guys watching this will probably know, wherever the most weed is where the most carp are a lot of the time. And this zone will hold fish from May all the way through to October. And it's also the area they spawn. Along the left-hand margin there's no swims, it's just overgrown, lots of trees in the water, and that's where they'll do their annual nuptials. Gets a southeasterly wind, east-southeasterly wind, get the rising sun in your face, so it's not a swim to have a lie in, believe me. You will be roasting set up in this swim when it's the height of summer. But a great swim to catch carp from, and again, a lot of the big fish have been caught from this area. And I've had a fair few myself. It's a lovely spot, the shallows. Well, the third and the smallest, I think this is probably an original. It's got tiny little shrunk barbs and an old dark mouth, scars all over him and little fins, and he's properly angry. 19 and a half, and yeah, perfect quarry session, brilliant. Well, I hope you've enjoyed our little trip round one of my all-time favourite venues, the quarry. I'm going to spend the evening doing a little bit of surface fishing because it's It's not perfect, but there's a few cruising around out there, so there's not been a fish caught out of here off the top this year, so that would be a proper bonus. I do like a challenge. So I'm going to give that a go. But if you're planning on coming down to sample some of the Quarry delights, it's got everything that you need. You know, there's toilets on site, there's very secure parking. The roads have been repaired, so they're not as bad as they used to be. There's local takeaways that will deliver to the gate. Great curry place in Hatfield Peveril, which is local, which will deliver all the way to the gate. And some of the best fish that you could ever cast a line for. So if you're down here and you see me, mine's white with no sugar, and happy hunting. His tail's still going now. Unbelievable.